Yeah, I like variety, I like newness, I like learning, I like challenge. I go in an organisation, I've got lots of ideas, I've got, a searing view of things. I can suss things out, suss people out very quickly. So I'm a breath of fresh air. After 3 years, when I haven't changed and I'm just the same, and I've just got the same energy, they've had enough. They're like, can't you just calm down and just settle and earn the money and just, and it's just not the way I'm built.
I don't use the word inspirational lightly, and I don't use it very often, but it's safe to say that Michelle Armitage is definitely my inspiration, and everyone should be a little bit more Michelle if you ask me. In today's interview, she was telling us all about how her portfolio career actually led her to a complete changing direction when she was in her 50s to start her interiors business, Light and Frank. In today's interview, we cover her ADHD, we cover golf and whether actually that's a sport that is a spectator sport or not. Jury's out on that, as well as a whole host of conversations that you are going to want to listen to today. But before we get into our interview, if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, you know what to do. And if you like today's video, please do give it a little thumbs up. It would be really appreciated. And let us know in the comments as well, have you had a portfolio career? And if so, what was the weirdest job you've ever had? We hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you again soon. Michelle, thank you very much for being with us today. We are really excited to get cracking on this interview with you. And with every single interview that we do, we start with one very large question, which often leaves people going, I wonder if you're going to do the same face. So, Michelle, what is it that you are trying to achieve?
I am trying to achieve validation in interiors for people, and trying to ban the copycat idea. So I think a lot of social media puts out an ideal, and this is great if you've already got some confidence and you're looking for inspiration. But a lot of people don't have confidence and they just feel inadequate, and they're following trends and following different celebrities or influencers. So my mission is to go to the opposite of that and help people with their interiors, starting with them and saying whatever you are, whatever your taste, that's good for you and that's valid. So that's quite a big mission because it's flying in the face of everything else.
And so how does that align? So I get that, and I say get that. That was way too dismissive for something so amazing. I'm fully on board with that. Totally makes sense. Does that align with you, on Thursday evening when you put your feet up for the evening as well? Is that personal element in that mission as well?
She might only put her feet up on a Friday.
Yes.
I put my feet up all the time.
Why not, eh? Why
I'm
not?
an all or nothing person. I'm either full on or I'm kind of like sleepy dormouse. Does that run right through me? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on my second career. My first career was in HR, and it was very much about helping people understand themselves, understand their personality, and aligning their work and their life to what suits them, as opposed to trying to change themselves to suit somebody else or something else. So that runs through corporate life. You have a better corporate life if you pick a role and pick an organisation that suits you. And now I've come into interiors. I'm applying the same kind of thinking to that. So, yeah.
Now, Michelle, that's two very, very, very not polar, polar opposite careers, really. How did you transition from HR into interiors?
I kind of got burned out, and I was heading towards 50 and thinking, if I work for another 10 years, I'll have enough money for a pension to retire early. And I handled that thought for about 2 months, and then I had like an internal scream, very loud, that kind of, I can't handle 10 more minutes, never mind 10 years of this. So I took some time out, and I've always loved interiors, and I thought it's time for a change. You can, as you get to middle age, you can start to see the end of your life. Sounds very dramatic, but you think, what do I want to achieve for the next bit of healthy years? And I wasn't very healthy either. I mean, it's a really long story. I had lots of health problems. I was pretty depressed. I had lots of physical problems. Looking back now, I know I was going into the menopause. So there was lots going on. And I totally upended my life. I left one career, started another, went back to uni. Effectively, it was like being 21 again. Sold my house, moved across the city to a cheaper area. It was all pretty dramatic. And I had no idea when I was in it what was going to come out the other end of it. You just have to have a leap of faith that you want your life to be or here's the swear word. Apologies, everybody. You don't want a shit life. You want a good life, you know. So, and people say, oh, well, that's really brave. But you didn't feel brave. It just felt inevitable. I just couldn't do it. And actually, I'm just really pleased. You see this little picture behind me here?
Yeah.
That is a print from my friend Mary Collette, who's a Bristol artist. And that's her dog, Bella. And Bella, I don't know if you can see, she's on a map and she's just leaping into the unknown. And I saw that in a shop right in the middle of when I was going through this change. And I thought, I was really worried about money. I'm often worried about money.
Aren't we all?
Hello. Hello, my name's Alan. Worried about money anonymous.
Yeah.
Or not
so
anonymous.
That little dog, I thought, if I end up homeless just with a bag of clothes, my car and that painting, which is like representational of where I'm going and leaping into the unknown, then I'll take that. So that little dog will go with me everywhere. It's very important.
I think the leaping into the unknown, following your nose, trying to keep a bit more of a dog thing in it, is quite a common theme. Absolutely. I was looking back through some of the transcripts for the recordings of these podcasts, and you're definitely not the first person who's kind of gone. The phrase we use is kind of winging it with style,
Buzz
Lightyearing it, you know, falling with style, and it's kind of like I know roughly where I'm going. I know roughly what I want to achieve, because it's a bit like going back to your corporate background. It's a bit like that. Hey, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't blimmin' know. You know, happy, having fun. No, I need you to choose which role you'd like to be in 5 years.
Yeah,
I don't know what I want to do tomorrow.
Yeah, the thing is, though, I've got a HR perspective on that question, because it's a good question to ask if you want to get into what someone's motivation is. And if somebody is status oriented, they'll talk about the role, the status, and a sense of achievement. If they're achievement oriented, they'll talk about the tasks and the things they want to have learned and what they've wanted to contribute. So it's a good question when you want to explore that, because you don't want an empty suit. You don't want someone who just wants all the glory and none of the work.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I mean, 5 years, I think maybe the next year you might have a clear thing about what you can do in the next year. In 10 years' time, I want to be a world-renowned expert in design psychology. So there you go.
That's a big statement as well.
It is, because I've got no academia behind me. I've got very few contacts. It's just like a personal mission. So I don't know if I should have shared that. But that's how. That's
but you know what? When you put it out there,
yes.
You have to put it out there. And even if and this is something we've had to learn as well, just because it might not happen, but that doesn't stop you having to aspire to try and work towards that goal and having that drive in you, because you have to have that fire in your belly. And I feel
we need to clarify. We're not suggesting it might not happen.
No.
We're just putting that as a kind of slight caveat in the story. We're on board with goals like this.
Well, I was looking yesterday. I mean, I probably would have to get a master's in environmental psychology to really push that to the next level and get all the contacts I need.
Best get gone to university again then. Come on.
So I kind of, but there's not very many courses in it. So the kind of course that a bit like the book I've written, the kind of course I want to do is the kind of course I need to write it in order to do it. So
segued into the book.
No, I know. To be honest, I will mention the book in a bit because it is fascinating.
But do you know what? I need to go to the book a little bit now before we get to you exploring the book a bit more, and Michelle, her own book that she wrote. But something that you have that we absolutely adore about you from outside looking towards you is the fact that you do have that fire in your belly. And the book that you have written recently, you wrote it because there was nothing out there that did the thing. It didn't exist. And you had that drive. And writing a book's not... it depends who you talk to, but writing is not easy to everybody. Having the patience, and the patience is a theme that came out of the last podcast we recorded actually, having that patience and determination and discipline to write is not an easy thing for most people, yet you have done it. And I think so. I see everything with you do. You do have that fire, and not everybody has that in them. And that's the difference between someone who may be employed thinking about they could possibly have a business someday and never actually does the thing, or someone who's heading towards their 50s, quits their very nice stable job and career in HR and actually goes, do you know what, I need something different in my life right now. It's major.
Yeah, I mean the book it's odd because I'm not really a completer finisher. So there's lots of creative projects that I've started and abandoned partway through, and some with embarrassing stories. But this one, I never doubted it. It was tough. There were points where I put it down and left it for a few months, but but I always knew I would finish it. I always knew I was going to achieve it. And it's odd when you get something like that. I really like Elizabeth Gilbert, the author, who wrote my favourite book ever is Big Magic. I don't know if you've seen Big Magic. So it's a book about creative living beyond fear. And it's about having a mission beyond yourself. So she talks about the idea of genius in ancient times is something outside of you. And the book feels like it's something a bit outside of me. So I've written it and I've finished it, but it's getting a bit spiritual now. It feels like there are other energies at force. And my dad's dad, who I never met, he died in 1960, Frank, and that's why I've got Frank in my business name, to honour his memory. He was a writer, an aspiring writer. I mean, he worked in a mill up north in the, he was born in 1893, Yorkshireman, Westman. But and that's why look at this. I feel like I've set everything up sitting here. So that's why I've got these
I just came downstairs
me.
to sit here because this had the better router. Oh no, I have a storyboard behind me of all the memories and all the stories to lead this conversation. I see what you're doing there, Michelle. I see it.
It's so funny. But I feel like I've got Frank energy, like my dad's dad. He's just like, go on, get writing, do it. So it's weird how some things happen and you didn't realise you had it in you to be that determined. So, I generally don't know where it's come from because it's really not usual for me to be like this.
I think that's fascinating because I think people have that. We're quite similar. I think we're discovering.
Oh goodness me, there's more than one of you in the world.
And well, perhaps that's why we attract people.
Yeah. Alan, maybe you're helping me bring out my inner Michelle. I feel like I'm kind of getting, as every year goes on, I get slightly more vibrant, bubbly, crazy, whatever one wants to say, more me. It's a little bit over, and the ADHD thing, I'm like, wow, if I embrace that, I'm going to get really nuts. So yeah,
let it unleash it.
I do. I think it's a superpower. I really, really do. I genuinely believe that. Carry with the question.
I've lost the question. We're now talking about ADHD. This is about the 15th time I've lost the question in the past few interviews because we're moving so fast through stuff. But I think I have no idea. Emily, save me here, please.
I need to kind of steer it back to you going into Light and Frank and leaving a career that how long were you in that HR role for before you decided to leave?
In that job 4 years. I've never, so long as I was in any job. So most jobs, organisations I worked for about 3 years, and I dipped in and out of employment and self-employment. So quite often I'll go in as an interim and they go, oh, we like you. So they give me a permanent job. And then after about 3 years, I'm like, yeah, I'm off now. Because that's just, I don't know, there's something about that. So I was in HR for 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, so going back to leaving every few years, do you like change?
Yes.
Or dislike that? So no, I'm the same. I love change. I just want as much as I can.
I like variety. I like newness. I like learning. I like challenge. I go in an organisation. I've got lots of ideas. I've got a searing view of things. I can suss things out, suss people out very quickly. So I'm a breath of fresh air. After 3 years, when I haven't changed and I'm just the same, and I've just got the same energy, they've had enough. Yeah. Like, can't you just calm down and just settle and earn the money and just and it's just not the way I'm built. So better to go somewhere new. Yeah, so self-employment and projects is perfect because you go in with a fresh energy and people appreciate it because they want it. They want that energy. For me personally, that means I have to kind of have time out because otherwise I just run myself ragged. So yeah.
What's your time out then? Because I find that interesting as well.
Well, this summer I went off in my camper van, which we chatted about as well. Mm-hmm. So my little mini camper, my Belingo.
Belingo crew. Yeah.
So and I made it all pretty as well beforehand. So I made it all cottagey. So I've got more to do because the tent's grey. So But anyway, so I went to France and I travelled. I went down to meet Wayne and Kathy down in the south, and we hung out for a week drinking lots of red wine, which was amazing. But on the way down there and back, I was on my own travelling around. And when I was in Saint Cadeau, which is South Brittany, it felt like I was on a silence retreat because I was surrounded by French people. And I speak some French, but not conversational French. So that was that. I do things like that. I'll go off on my own. Nature's very helpful.
Are you okay by yourself for long periods of time?
Yeah, funnily enough, I am actually. Yeah. You'd think not when you're chatty and you're extrovert, but that's the opposite, isn't it? So I don't really, my head isn't that busy when I'm in the right place. It can actually go blank. I can forget what I just said I was going to do. So yeah.
I love that. Now, I one of the first things you said about being brave and being in your sort of heading towards 50s and making that life change and sort of just throwing it into the air and see what happens there. Alan's always said this to me, and it wasn't until you first said that I realised that you have more usable life post 40, because we're in Alan's 45, I'm 40.
All right.
And you get some people who get really bogged down by they're heading towards that figure, that number, which means very little these days. I mean, Alan is 45, but it might as well be a 10-year-old, you know. It's as young and as old as you feel. But in your first 40 years, you know, you're an infant, you're in the education system, you are dependent, you've got parents who tell you what to do, and then you're kind of finding your feet, and then you suddenly get to 40 and you've just about maybe not worked out. I still don't know what I'm doing. But I think in the latter 40 years, actually, that's where the magic can happen. That's because you have worked out what you like, what you don't like. You know your personality, hopefully, by that point. You may have ironed out some of those creases in terms of life and mortgages and all that kind of stuff. And it's actually quite an exciting place to be, because you're a grown-up doing the thing. And actually, when you say that, you know, throwing it into the wind and seeing what happens, following your nose, that's exciting. And I don't think enough people recognise that life doesn't end, or when you're heading towards a retirement age, it doesn't have to stop then. Actually, you've got so much more usable time after that as well.
Well, the concept of retirement is really outdated, as education is outdated. There's so many structures we have in society that don't work anymore, do they? No. So, I mean, if you're enjoying your life, what is retirement? I understand ill health retirement or, you know, disability retirement, but I don't understand why you would stop working if you enjoy what you're doing. You might slow down a bit, you might change, you know, the proportion, but I don't particularly plan to retire. I really enjoy the subject matter the people I meet, what I'm doing. So, you know, I can play golf on a Tuesday if I want, because I'm self-employed. So, you know, the kind of freedoms that people aspire to if they're in a normal, steady job is really because they're not leading the life they want now. So.
Yeah, I get it. And we have a...
Sorry, Emily, a really important question. Do you play golf? Because I quite liked you up until that moment, Michelle.
No, I don't play golf. I'm thinking of taking it up, though, because
of course you are.
It's a good hobby. It's a good physical... I'm very competitive, and the games I used to play, like tennis and squash and rock climbing, I things like that, I can't really do it anymore. So I'm looking for competitive sports that are easier on my knees.
Oh, I get that.
So practical you are. I love that. I want to do it. That's like, I have no hand-eye coordination. I've one time I went with a friend of mine. We must have been early 20s, and we had a bit of a once a month we'd go and do something we've never done before kind of club. And she took me to the driving range, and I'd never held a golf club. My dad would be horrified about that. He plays all the time. But I held the club, and you know when they make you kind of like interlink your fingers to hold the club in a certain way. I went, well, that's really awkward. I don't want to hold it like that. I'm going to hold it like this. And then I took my first swing, and the club went completely out of my hand. Went woo, right out into the field. And like, I was like, oh, and then everyone watched the walk of shame. Not me, the man who had to go in his little trolley to go and get it.
So you got someone else to do your own walk of shame?
It's a health and safety thing, but everyone stopped their play to watch the little man go, here it is. I felt so bad. And at that point, I realised golf was not my sport. Definitely not my sport.
Ah, it does attract a kind of boring, well, I don't know. It feels like a boring thing. I don't think it is a boring thing.
I'm sure if you're playing
it's in my family. I remember watching it with my mum, watching Pro Celebrity Golf on the telly. So
how do you? We're not here to talk about golf today. We're not. But I just don't think it's a spectator sport. You watch it on the telly, right? You see a man or a woman, you know, sticking with it with a piece of paper.
You're too young to remember the programme. There was a programme called Pro Celebrity Golf, and what they did is they teed up interesting celebs, like Terry Wogan was a big golfer, and so you'd have Terry Wogan hanging around with I'm just showing my age now, I'm 55, a guy called Lee Trevino, and basically they would record the chats. So basically golfing, all right, here we are, let's sum it up. Golfing is good as the person you're playing golf with. So you just could find interesting people to go and play golf with, and then it's a great game. same, because essentially it's a walk, isn't it? It's a walk around, and then a tiny bit of sport in between. That's what it is. So.
No, it is.
Yeah, let's get off golf. Let's get off golf.
Where did we get to? So we have a family member who's actually just been made redundant, and he is, 58, nearly 59, and he's really struggling at this point because in his master plan, as someone who's been employed his entire adult life, he was going to retire in the next couple of years to fit in, and now it's actually at that point of, I need to go and get another job because I'm not at retirement stage yet. And I don't think as a self-employed person we ever have those thought processes, because it's a different way, isn't it? Because like you just said, exactly, taking the golf side, we integrate that life balance blend, whatever you want to call it, in our day-to-day. That's why we do the stuff we do, because we want to have that lifestyle. So the idea of, for me, getting to 59 and actually having to reassess my life plan because it's not quite to the letter the same, that's quite a tricky thing to do.
It is tricky.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody recently, and he wants to go around the world. He's earned money in his own company, and he's fit man in his early 60s, and he wants to go around the world on a yacht. And that's his retirement plan. Unfortunately, his wife doesn't have the same vision, so they're now debating what's probably been like a real goal for him of what he wanted to do. And it's a bit mean of me, but I find that really funny.
Yeah, so do I. And it does beg 1,000 questions, isn't it? Like, my idea of fun's going and running 100 miles through the mountains, which I'm currently not in a physical shape to do, but that's still my idea of fun. That's not Emily's. So do I dump her? Possibly, or do I just leave her at home and and you do your adventures and you come back on the bits that you can share. We know someone who does that. Actually, they're in the digital circus.
So I just need to interject into that little bit.
What, on the dumping comment?
If I'm single in the next few weeks, everyone knows that he's being a douchebag. Okay, it was not me; it was all him. Anyone who listens now, Alan was the douchebag.
Said the narcissist. Right. Anyway, carrying on. And now I do want to mention your book properly, Michelle. So
right.
we always
is this the point where I just do this?
Please do.
Please do. We didn't want this podcast to be like, come and plug this. We really want it to be about life and the people. But as Emily said when we were talking about it, you wrote it because it didn't exist. And that's and you said that about the next course you may wish to study as well. And that's the fascinating part. I don't even know what question. Just tell us about like what made you go, well, I'll write it then if it doesn't exist.
I think the journey into it is a bit unusual. The world is so broad, isn't it? There's so many subjects. So my first degree was psychology, and when I started to study interior design, one of the first things they teach you is to understand how to collect the brief from the client. So what you're going into someone else's home to help them create a home to suit them. And there wasn't any psychology in that. So I'm not criticising my course, because I think there generally isn't a lot of psychology or understanding individual's personality beyond just character. Like you've got two definitions of personality, so as I was doing the course, I thought I'll just go off and look and see if anyone's written anything about what I know about personality theory, individual differences, and see if it's linked to interiors. So it took me ages, and then this is with the help of Google and the modern world, I finally found a field called environmental psychology, which is the study of people in their environment, the built environment and the natural environment. But it's not a very well-known field, and because of climate change, a lot of the research in environmental psychology has gone towards that. What are our attitudes around the world and our environment and sustainable interiors? So the individual psychology bit, the bit that I'm interested in, I'm not saying I don't care about climate change, but the bit I'm particularly interested in, which is what kind of spaces, I'm doing a bad thing with the mic now, what kind of spaces really do we want? What spaces make us feel alive? What spaces make us thrive? What will help us in productivity in a working environment? There is some research there, but it's not well known. It's certainly not linked to the design industry well enough. And if I met somebody out walking, actually, talking about dementia and design for dementia homes or design for people with sensory impairment, that kind of work is out there. But for everyday person living in a home, living on a housing estate, working out what kind of wallpaper to pick, there's no link as far as I can work out. So that's why I wrote it. I thought, well, I'm going to pull together the research, pull together the learning, and some of it's made up, some of it's my own thoughts, and I'm still developing that thinking as I work with people. So that's quite exciting for me. It's not very academic though, and I do feel slightly self-conscious about that.
Well,
because what I mean is it lacks rigor, so it's open to criticism. So there is one thing actually which anyone listening to this, if they're thinking of writing a book, is you've kind of got to get over yourself that you will, because you will be criticised. The more you get known, the more the criticism's going to come. So I've done as much work on myself to get ready for that as to actually get it finished.
But that's where you're kind of stamping your own authority in your industry, right? Because any academic study, any person who has written any kind of academic book in whatever field, majority of that does come from a place of what's coming in their own heads. They are a critical thinker. They are a thought leader there. So therefore, it does open itself up to criticism. But it's not criticism; it's discussion, and that's where the magic is. Because
unless you're on Twitter and you're just being trolled,
well, less about Twitter the better, if you ask me.
X is currently,
but it does, and I think that resilience that you have to build up is another life skill that you can apply to writing a book, to putting yourself out there on camera, to putting yourself in your social media, into your business, creating a new product, having any kind of opposing opinion. But I always do like when you get that negativity back at you. That's not necessarily something to take personally, but that's something to go, actually, it's scratching at someone to have a conversation about, and actually that's exciting.
It's also a great benchmark that you are actually getting out there, that enough people are starting to see, yes, it's horrible and we don't want it to happen, but take it as a positive in that actually people are reading your stuff and starting to find out about it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I haven't
Michelle,
had that kind of criticism yet, so I'm waiting for it. And you're right, when I get my first 1-star Amazon review on my book, then I will celebrate. I will literally open a bottle of champagne, because you've got to be really, don't someone just do it just for the heck of it. But I just genuinely, when somebody finds my book and goes, oh, that's a load of rubbish, and just says, what, it wasn't what I wanted, then it means I've got to a point of exposure, of what's the word, discoverability that I'm after.
So I find it very interesting when we hear you talk, and especially with the subject of your book, because for one of the things that have always sat with me is we're in our homes a lot, right? And we buy our homes based on how, hopefully you view somewhere and you choose it. But the reality is far different. And one of the things that always sticks with me is, when I sleep, I just need somewhere to lay my head. And I've always thought, no, I don't want my bedroom just to be somewhere to lay my head and go sleep. Now, I don't hang out in there. It's not like we work from our bedroom or anything like that. But I do want my bedroom to be more than just somewhere, even when I'm going away, So I think I get that next level of stuff.
You won't let me buy those curtains.
No, you can buy the curtains. I'm fine with that. They're blackout curtains. I might sleep better in the summer.
If I sleep in a room that has blackout curtains, I have to open it a bit so that when I wake up, I know whether it's sunny or not. So that's my little quirk, that I don't like full blackout rooms.
I don't need blackout curtains whatsoever. Alan likes to be in like a black box. That'll be it.
I don't see. I'm now in this world where I don't like to label anything, because if you label it, you believe it. So I have in the past labelled myself a very light sleeper. There is some evidence to back that up as a statement.
There's lots of evidence to back that up.
I know, but I'm trying not to label it. Everything you are the life you believe.
Sorry, I have to interject. There is a story here. There is a story. This to kind of set.
I think we've told this before, but
I'm going to say it again because it gets better with age. In our very first house that we bought together, we were in suburbia. We were semi-detached on a very busy street, and we were on a slight hill. So our house and the road were kind of there was a bit of a dip, and so the pavement was in line with our bedroom window, and
the driveway was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare to go up and down. One evening, it was raining outside, and Alan doesn't like the rain at the best of times when it's quite noisy, stormy. But the rain was going tap 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 on a crisp packet. outside, a bit of litter on the floor, a little teeny tiny crisp packet.
It was the overflowing gutter that was dripping.
And it was going drip, 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 drip. And Alan was like, and he was happy. So I had to get out of bed in the middle of the night myself, go down the stairs, out onto the street, go and locate the crisp packet to take it and put it in the bin so Alan could sleep better, because apparently that was just too noisy and he couldn't sleep. That's how much of a light sleeper Alan is.
I mean, the principles of the story are correct. That is true. Man, I still don't remember why you went and I didn't go, and most people go.
I know why Emily went, because you were annoying her. So actually, so she could go back to sleep, she had to remove the annoyance.
Because I am not a light sleeper and I could just get on with it. Hey.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Right, let's build this into business. Okay, business. Mm-hmm. So, like, where does the desire for the own business come from? Now, I know you talked about being employed, and I know you talked about changing every 3 years, but where was the thought process that then you suddenly went, well, I'm just going to run my own business?
I think because when you've got lots of skills as a middle-aged person, you become slightly employable at the level that you want to work. So if I, as an interior designer, and by the way, I'm not qualified, and some people say, oh, do say that. It doesn't matter, does it? Because, there's a lot of design stuff which is detailed and CAD work and things like that. So I tend to outsource that to other people. So I haven't actually got a qualification. If I tried to go and get a job at the bottom in design in a company, I wouldn't be any good at it. They wouldn't want me. So that's one reason. It sounds like a really negative reason, actually, but it's just that you just use the networks that you've already got and bring another skill set in. And what I do when I work with companies is I combine my HR and my interior design skill set. So I help them problem solve what they're trying to achieve and then bring in other experts to deliver that. So that's niche as well. It doesn't really exist, what I do, much out there. I mean, there are different fields. When I work with homeowners, I don't operate like other interior designers. I go in and help them decide what they need rather than give them an idea or a design that I've done. It's very much collaboration. And it's more like coaching. So that's a service I'm about to advertise more, which is me as a design coach as opposed to a designer. So I think all of those just naturally lead you to self-employment. It wasn't really, I must be self-employed. I'm actually quite happy. If somebody could create a job for me with a regular income doing what I do, quite happy to work for somebody else. In fact, quite often I yearn to be told what to do, because it's actually a lot of responsibility working for yourself, isn't it? Yeah, look, I can see you both nodding. Like,
it's proper grown-up stuff, isn't it?
Somebody tell me what the priorities are today.
Yeah.
You know,
was there ever a moment when you left? I know you went and retrained stuff, but was there ever a moment where you went, "Oh crap, I'm doing this for myself"? Were you daunted by the idea of going it alone? Were you quite happy with that?
It's actually my third go at it, so no.
What were the other two? Do we know these?
They're both HR consultancy. So one company I had, I called 1 Degree Difference, because when you're trying to do change management, you make a small change and it's like any behaviour change, you do it enough. Or a sailing analogy, 1 degree difference on a plot, and then 100 miles you quite.
We know that from Hijack.
From Hijack.
Have you watched Hijack on Apple TV?
Sorry, you're taking Michelle's very interesting and important thing and referencing it to an Idris Elba television program.
I didn't know.
That was
Idris
rubbish.
Elba's in it, then I'll watch it. Yeah.
Idris Elba on a plane. Funny enough, got hijacked. But they changed the trajectory by just 1 degree, and then back in England in the air traffic, they could tell that there was a problem with the plane because of that 1 degree difference. See, I reckon nice. I like it.
So that was that company, and then the other one was just boring, the MA consultancy. So me as a independent consultant in HR and assessment and selection, which is like business psychology. So that's what I've got my 10,000 hours in, having worked for so long, which is interviews, psychometrics, assessment centres. That's that kind of thing.
Do you know what you just said? That I was one of those moments where you go, yeah, that makes sense. Is when you said, I'm pulling from all of these things to do what I do now. So I'm pulling from HR, I'm pulling from my love of this, I'm pulling from, Frank, God bless his soul. You're pulling from all of those things in your life to right now. And if ever there was I saw a TikTok yesterday, I sent it to you and I can't remember her name, where she basically was saying the jack of all trades is the right thing.
Well, I've not watched that. Did you send me something?
Yeah, I sent it to you yesterday. Thanks for watching what I sent you.
Is that the multi-potentialite thing? No?
Oh, possibly. I think she was very anti being good in one thing, and she was very, with a good explanation of why you should actually be doing more than one thing. And I think, you've just summed that up for me again, and being able to pull in all of those to offer something unique and different.
Well, the Ikigai chart, which just talks about different things. So there's that, isn't there? But I've got like a Venn diagram of interests, which if I stay in that space, I'm always happy. One is nature, being out in nature. One is psychology, and the other one is art. So you can kind of see how those three things link in the middle. Art and design with homes and environment and people. So if I'm in that space, I'm happy. So it's quite broad, really.
That's
so
a nice
I agree
place
with you.
To be, though.
Yeah, well, it's my happy place. So, but I think, for me, life is about variety. I wouldn't criticise someone for doing one thing and doing it well and being happy doing it. We're all different.
But
well,
I was just going to say, because I think that's a really good point to make, because in business world, and especially when you're like hanging out on social media and you see all those messages thrown down your throat a lot, it's all about niching down and being very specific and being very driven on just doing that one thing and doing that one thing well. And I think we almost forget that not everyone wants to be like that, and to be a generalist sometimes, and to want to have a wider scope of that opportunity, because a bit like you, we've flitted between jobs a little bit across the years, stuff for that.
Don't know what you mean.
But it's about, and we had this conversation with Richard Langdon a couple of weeks ago as well on that, is actually that ability to learn that little bit more with everything else you do, those other opportunities is that's even more exciting. And yes, you can be good at one thing and do one thing well and stay in that one lane and focus on that one product or that one kick-ass service, that's fine. But actually to have the balls to say, actually, do you know what? That's not for me. I want to serve this. I want to do this. I want the flexibility here. I might get bored in a few years, so therefore I want to be able to flex and change and do it. That's also really cool. And I think you have demonstrated in this as how well you can do that, and how it doesn't mean you're going completely off piece, because actually everything is fed to you doing what you're doing right now.
Well, it's interesting though, because a lot of my HR colleagues were like, what, interior design? Really, you're going to do that? As if it was something like picking up slimy frogs. Is that that kind of tone to it, and as if there was nothing linked. And I think it doesn't really matter. You could take any two subjects and you would find an undiscovered space in between them, and people coming out of silos. And you talk about in business, cross-functional working teams work really well because people chat. We get in these silos. You end up with this kind of stale thinking. When you start jumping across subjects, then it becomes more stimulating, more interesting, I think, as well. So, which is, that's when you find niche places where you think, oh, there's no one really operating in this space. I found a new space.
Yeah.
So. But I think I did it because I couldn't help it. I didn't do it. I can't retrospectively attribute any cleverness on my part. I just followed
take the cleverness. It was definitely all me.
Yeah, but I think it is the cleverness is cleverness that we're having it. Cleverness is there, but it's like, just because it wasn't a conscious decision to go, I'm going to do this, that would be cleverness. Doesn't mean it's not underpinned by your entire life of and I think that's what we find, is that what you're doing now will go back to something that happened many years ago when you were younger, and every little point on the route. You said, as long as I'm kind of doing what I like, I kind of choose it and I'm aiming in that direction, it's just a natural progression.
It feels like a good life, a well-lived life. And I feel very fortunate that we live in today's world, not all aspects of today's world, but going back to Frank, he wrote some great letters home in the First World War. He was in Germany, East Africa, and then he got malaria, went down to South Africa, and then ended up in the Somme. So I'm very lucky to be alive, because Frank was lucky to stay alive. He was in the whole of the First World War as a paramedic and was able to go home. And there are if anybody wants to look, if you look on World War I Shipley men. There's a whole website about Shipley men in the First World War, and he wrote letters home and they were published in the local paper. So, but thinking about his life, that was his adventurous time to go to war and to see the world. After that, he stayed in Baildon and he worked in the mill. And, to think about people's lives 100 years ago, which is what it was, there weren't a lot of opportunities. So he didn't get to be a writer. Whereas anybody, there are no gatekeepers anymore. Anyone can decide to write. So I'm not going to get a bit emotional now. So I've written that book for him. And my sister is into writing. So listen to my voice.
You're okay.
My sister started writing as well. And I just think he'll be so proud of us, kind of living in today's world and getting our voice out there. So,
and do you know what? You should be proud of yourself as well. I know you are proud of yourself. And, we think you are utterly fabulous. We genuinely, obviously, from afar, we think you're absolutely incredible what you do. And
it's so funny, we haven't even met yet. It's so funny.
We've had
You're on the list of we can't believe we haven't
we
met.
We do have this list, and we've had this a couple of times recently, actually. Some of our biggest friends in business. Oh, all right. Don't check. See, even Alan's getting emotional. People we have never met, but we have such an affinity with because we all get what you are doing, and we're all on a similar kind of, not everyone's got different pathways, but we understand where you're at and those things that pull us in different directions and that drive and that need. You are incredible, and we have always been your biggest fans, always, and we can't wait to see what happens again for you in the future, in the next chapter, whatever that looks like.
When you design your course.
But we have to finish the podcast, and we have to finish with one final question for you, because I could chat to you for hours. Hold fire.
I have a feeling that Michelle's answer may lead on to some more conversation.
Always does.
Let's roll
so
with
this
it.
will be the final question in inverted commas, but we'll see how we're on 44 minutes. We can't. So Michelle, if you could, and you may not want to change anything, that's absolutely fine. But if you would like to go back to your former self at any age, you could be 10, 20, 30, whatever, and put an arm around yourself and go, Michelle, I want to give you a little bit of advice. What would that be?
Yeah, I'm going to really cut this down because I've thought about this question before. I would never advise myself at any point in life because I wouldn't have listened. You got to live your life forward. The only thing that I regret that I wish I'd done is look after my health a bit more. Yeah. Because as someone who exists in my head, I've had some health issues and I've neglected that. So I'm now putting that back in, but it's harder when you've let it go. So that's
but it's never too late. It's never too late.
No, exactly. No. So you've got to live in the way you are now. I've got something called sleep apnea, and menopause combined with sleep apnea was a real shit show. So, the vitality I feel now in myself at 55, it feels like I felt when I was 35. And in the middle years, there was a lot of ill health and a lot of struggle. So health, I think, is physical health, mental health. I've got good mental health. The physical health, these are the things I think, but the rest of it, definitely make it up as you go along. And
I think one thing I'm going to take from this interview today, Alan, is to hashtag be more Michelle.
Be more Michelle. Are you putting that out as a hashtag?
Yeah, hashtag be more Michelle.
Right, that's really embarrassing.
Well, I'm just thinking of, I want the Belingo. I'm all about the Citroen Belingo personally.
Yeah, be more Belingo, be more micro camper. Yeah, there's something so freeing, isn't there, about just going out on the road and.
Do you know we drive a Mark 1 Belingo. It has a name.
It's a Mark 1.
It's a Mark 1. Ringo de Belingo. It's the uglier of the two, allegedly uglier, because beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
What years were Mark 1? Is that up to 20?
They're like 89 to 2007.
I apologise for anyone listening to us right now.
But what gets me is. Our Belingo does get, you drive a Citroen Belingo like that. And then I show them it, and I show them inside. I show them the sliding doors, the cubby holes, the roof bars that rotate when you do this. And they go, wow. And genuinely, you kind of see the love in their, well, I don't know if it's love, but the acceptance.
Appreciation.
Not that we need their acceptance, but you know what I mean? It goes from this ugly duckling to them actually getting it. And they're unbelievable.
Have you got a camping unit in yours?
No, we have 3 kids though.
You'd love mine. I've got an Amdro boot jump in the back of mine, which means it's got a little stove and a fold-out bed, and then I've got a tailgate tent. So it is a full setup. And now I've been camping with Wayne and Kathy. I've now got myself an electric hookup, and I'm going to get myself a little air fryer, because believe me, you know, some people camp at like another level. So I like being off grid, but then, you know, a few creature comforts. It's all good. But yeah, it's something about the freedom, isn't it? Just being able to get in your car and go off, have an adventure. You're not tethered to anything, and take your little bits. Talking about the home and interiors bit, take little bits of creature comforts with you. So like I'm back in the back of my camper. I've got a full duvet and nice feather pillows, and pretty things. Candles.
Amazing.
I look forward to carrying on this conversation off camera. Michelle, thank you so very much for being here today. We've absolutely enjoyed speaking to you.
Amazing,
and for everyone else watching the Digital Circus Live right now, we'll see you next time.
Bye.